Hello, and welcome back to the Argyle CFO Leadership Forum. My name is Brittany Sullivan with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our esteemed speaker. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. Our partners are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during today's event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, which includes complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. To ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat, and we will address your questions at the end of the session. Now, without further delay, I would like to introduce our speaker, Enitan Adesanya, currently the Hospital and Clinics Controller at San Mateo Medical Center, with previous roles including Vice President of Risk and various CFO roles at Kaiser Permanente and other organizations. We are excited to have Enitan with us for a keynote titled CFOs and Risk Management, Strengthening Organizational Security. Welcome, Enitan, and over to you.
Thanks, Brittany. It's good. It's really good to be invited to talk about this very, very important topic. I'm going to start. We don't have a lot of time, about 30 minutes, and I'm going to be presenting something that is so dense that could last for more than 1 hour. So what I'm going to do is to just give you snippets of it and then open it up for questions. So in terms of the topic, again, the topic is CFOs and risk management and strengthening organizational security, which is something that is very crucial in today's environment. To speak to the topic, I'm going to cover a few things. First, why do we need to manage risks? The second is risk management process hierarchy, risk management structure, introducing the 3 lines of defense as we know it in corporate environments. Talk about CFO's roles and in managing risks, and then go to some specifics around organizational security risk continuum, which is very relevant to this topic of today. And then share with you organizational risk landscape, kind of an illustrative version of what I have used in the past and many organizations currently use to report up to the board of directors and the C-suite on the risk landscape of the company. And then we'll go into question and answers. Without further ado, let me go to my first topic, which is why manage risks. Well, from my perspective, there are 3 things that are very important in responding to this question. The first is we manage risks because we want to, or we need to, minimize, monitor, and control the probability that unfortunate events occurs in organizations. And those unfortunate events sometimes impact the organizations in a very bad way. So how do we prevent this from happening? Also, you want to minimize or maximize the realization of opportunities. Opportunities come your way to make a lot of money, to fulfill your objectives and mission and purpose as an organization. But it is important that we maximize the realization of those opportunities. And for us to do that, we have to minimize risks. And then ultimately, we want to protect our brand as a company and also to prevent the erosion of public trust. If the public does not have trust in what you do, the business you're in, what you provide to the public, then you don't have a business. It's just that simple. So those are the 3 key things for me why you want to manage risks. Then we go to the next topic, which is kind of understanding risk management process hierarchy, the hierarchy of risk management in most organizations. And the reason this is important is for you to understand what the execution of risk management looks like in many organizations, the various layers that are involved. And also to understand where everything is pointing to the North Star, which is fulfilling the mission, the vision, and the values of the organization, as well as maintaining the public trust. The first two in this hierarchy, what is very, very fundamental and very important is to understand that the first two two blocks are very, very important. If they're very strong, they're very clear, they're very simple, then you don't have issues that could cause you to not meet your company objectives. And they are your policies, your procedures, and your standards. The internal controls you develop and you build into your structures in your systems, operational controls, financial controls, technology controls, safety controls, and things like that. If those things are solid, there is a very high chance that you won't have compliance issues, regulatory issues, statutory issues, external and internal compliance issues that often plague some organizations. Not that you won't have them, but you're able to manage them, you're able to forecast them, and you're able to deal with them before they become major issues for the organization. And so those are things that are very important in making sure that we maintain public trust. Now, this kind of gives you an idea of a typical risk management structure in many organizations that practice a good and effective risk management. There are usually 3 lines of defense. And those lines of defense are equally very, very important. The first line of defense is always in the front line, operations. This is where operations, through their efforts, through their carrying out their day-to-day responsibilities, monitor activities, use metrics to monitor risk activities, and use data mining tools, use control self-assessment tools, and have a very robust quality and safety assurance program that they use to monitor issues that could likely occur. The second line of defense is coming behind that, providing some oversight, providing some monitoring to understand what is working well, what is not working well, working closely with those in operations to make sure that risk is managed very well, proactively. These are risk management units. And then the independent unit that comes at the third line of defense are the independent reviewers, your external auditors, your internal auditors, auditing the organization, auditing processes, and auditing systems, and also your investigations. By the time you get to an investigation activity, a lot of things are probably broken or something is not working very well, and they need to be investigated by an independent party to make sure that we cover all our bases. So those are the 3 lines of defense that you will see in many organizations. This is typically the way it is arranged, but many organizations do arrange them differently. One thing is consistent, though. When you talk about the third line of defense, it's most likely expected to be independent of operations. So now beginning to comment on the specifics of the topic of the day, which is what role do CFOs play in managing risks? And the way I see it, there are 4 pillars. There are 4 key areas. From a strategic standpoint, operationally, as a steward of the organization, and as a catalyst to make sure that the organization is meeting its business objectives and mission and purpose. At the strategy level, CFOs do monitor risk through financial performance monitoring, risk forecasting, investment and debt risk monitoring. On the operations side, you'll find things that are typical, like financial reporting to understand where the organization is financially, and you also have tax compliance monitoring, potential non-compliance on tax issues, external tax reporting, and things like that. And also the steward of the keeper of financial policies, writing the right financial policies for the organization, making sure that those policies are well integrated into the business and things like that. On the stewardship side, the CFO is responsible for cash control, other asset monitoring, internal controls monitoring, and financial compliance monitoring. And then the fourth is as a catalyst for the business, generally business performance. The CFO does not own most of the performance of the business. However, the CFO is always there to make sure that those things are working very well with respect to budget monitoring for the performance activities, cost improvement, and cost control. And then one thing that is also important to know about this slide is that CFO's risk management responsibilities are anchored in the previous slide, in the first and second lines of defense that I shared in the previous slide. In addition, CFOs also control funding and for monitoring of risk mitigating executions that the organization has decided to embark upon to strengthen risk or to correct certain things that are not working well and things like that. So it is the responsibility of the CFO to control the funding, to make sure that the funding is properly dispersed and it's used as intended. Now we start getting to the crux of what I am here to present today, which is understanding the role of the CFO and then tying it into security of the organization. When I look at the security of the organization, oftentimes what you see is that there's a lot of focus on cybersecurity, and for the right reasons. Cyber is something that is here to stay. And it is a set of activities that almost every organization do pay attention to these days because it can really take you down. However, to have a robust approach to managing risk in the security space, you really have to look at the continuum of risk in the security space. And when you talk about security in an organization, you have to always start from the physical to the cyber. The physical are the physical pillars that you see and feel and touch, to the people, and then to cyber, which is sometimes something that you don't see, but it comes to hit you. And how do you prevent any occurrence from happening? And then in the middle are the hybrid activities. And so let me go through it one by one. So naturally, you have people. How do you keep your people secure, both external parties and those that are visiting your organization, making sure that they come into a secured environment as they do their work and as they do work with you. Then you have to physically control cash and to manage cash and access to cash and things like that. Then you start getting to an area that is more of a hybrid between physical and cyber. Facilities, equipment, and also edge IT and IoTs, Internet of Things. And then you have intellectual property. Here is why these three areas are very, very important. In today's environment, most of your facilities, some things that we don't even think about, but almost all your facilities that you use are on your network, including the elevator systems, the HVAC, HVAC systems. They are all controlled through your network. And also you have all the things that are kind of what I call pseudo IT systems that pack a lot of data. They're on your network to work. I'll give you examples. I am in the healthcare space. There, are some things that keep, us up at night when it comes to edge IT. So you have the clinical devices that you use in hospitals. They are actually on your network. They have a lot of data, and they share data with the other components of your network. You have IoTs, the ones that you would really appreciate more that you see on a daily basis will be your Alexa, your refrigeration systems are now getting on the network. You have your access badges that you use to access, the facilities. They're on your network. These things, because they're connected to your network, there could be penetration through these equipment into the core of your network. That was what happened with what you call Target, the Target Corporation in 2013. When Target was attacked, they were not attacked through the main data systems and the main mainframe and things like that. They were attacked through the HVAC system that was being serviced by a third party. And so you have to pay attention to this. And then you start getting to intellectual property and data, which could be accessed remotely and from someone sitting in another country, and just have, developing a profile of your organization and have access to put some bad stuff into your system that would steal your data and could take you down. So you have a lot of those things. The activities that you see in these areas are external physical attacks, which covers the physical to the hybrid. Then cyber attacks, which, like I said before, covers the hybrid to the cyber. And then internal violence and internal fraud schemes. And then internal policy violations and errors, which covers the entire gamut. Now, what keeps CFOs up at night in these areas? The potential loss of revenue and assets, minimize financial liabilities from security attacks, lawsuits and regulatory sanctions, and loss of reputation, which is the ultimate thing that you really don't want to have happen, because once you lose your reputation, you lose the public's trust, and that becomes a problem for your company. Now, in my career, I have used this a lot to report out on the organizational risks of the company as a whole. And this is a report or a way to report out on everything happening in the landscape of the organization as it comes to risks. In this example, this is categorized into strategic and financial risks, information technology risks, human capital, and regulatory compliance. And so every year, or sometimes updated every quarter, you survey the landscape, you review everything that is going on from the 3 lines of defense in terms of monitoring activities and audits and things like that, to form a theme about where your key risks and exposures are. And then you plot it on this map. And so you see on the horizontal axis, you have likelihood, and on the vertical axis, you have impact. So you focus on the risks or the risk activities that are closer to the upper right quadrant. The further it gets to the upper right quadrant, the more risky it is for your company in terms of its impact, if it is occurring or it likely would occur, and also the fact that it could also be occurring as we speak, which is almost certain that it is occurring or it will likely occur to you. Sometimes these things are occurring not because of what you're not doing right internally, but because of the environment in which you operate in. So you have to stay on top of these things at all times. What I did here was to kind of color some of these risk elements black, because those are the ones that are directly related to the topic that we're talking about, which is security, and nothing more than that. It might as well just be the same color. So just in case you have that question. And that really is the core of my presentation. I'm going to leave the rest of the time for questions, but I'm going to start with asking one question, and I'm going to give you the answer, and then we'll open it up to the floor. And that is, who ultimately owns risks in an organization? I'm going to pause for a minute for you to think about it, and I'm sure you will have your own answers. But from the standpoint of most organizations, the ultimate owner of the risk is the board. The board of directors owns all risks. And that is why they have to know about the key risks of your organization all the time. Now, what the board does is that it delegates those responsibilities to the CEO and the C-suite. And the CFO is right in the middle of that. And from that standpoint, I think I will turn it over with this conclusion for you to think about. Vikram Verma, who is the author of a book called Fundamentals of Sustainable Finance, said it very well. Sustainable finance is a symphony where risk management and performance measurements compose the harmonies of profit and purpose. In essence, you don't look at risk in isolation of your performance as an organization. They are all meshed together. And companies that win, that maximize their profit and meet their purpose, are those that are able to, put everything together for it to be in harmony in terms of risk and performance. And with that, I am going to end my presentation, and I'm going to turn it over for questions. Brittany?
Excellent. Thank you so much, Anatan, for such an insightful keynote. As a reminder, audience members can still enter questions, and we'll go ahead and review a few that came through. This first question asks, what do you think the biggest threats or risks will be in 2024?
Oh, that's a very good question. I don't know. And here's why I would say I don't know. It depends on your industry. And we're talking strictly from a corporate standpoint now. From other things happening in the environment, there are threats and everything. But from the standpoint of your organization, if I had to guess, I'll say cyber continues to be a problem. And with the introduction of AI, it brings the good, and it definitely will bring the bad. And I tell you, as we're harnessing and leveraging AI in everything that we do, there are hackers or people that are out there that are also leveraging AI, developing risks that can impact significantly your organization using AI also. So as you use AI as an opportunity, see AI as an opportunity, you also have to see AI as a risk to your business. I would pay attention to that.
Excellent. Thank you. This next question, what does a successful risk framework look like, and how often should it be reevaluated?
A successful risk framework that is, that I always recommend for organizations is the risk framework that is proactive. You can't stop thinking about risk in everything that you do. And that is one of the things that Vikram is talking about. If I read into his quote, you can't separate risk from performance. And you know that as a company, you always think about the performance of the company on a daily basis. As you're thinking about the performance of the company, you also need to be thinking about a risk. Good organizations have KPIs and KRIs all together. And that is key performance indicators that tells the company how the company is doing, but also embedded in that are key risk indicators. Because the only way you can meet your performance is if you manage your risks very well, very well. And
Great.
so you become proactive, and if it works for you to do it monthly, to look at your risk activities monthly, so be it. If it is daily, so be it. If it's quarterly, so be it. But don't wait and let it be static. And the only time you revisit it is at the end of the year when you have to report to the board or to the C-suite.
Great, thank you. The next question, what does a healthy relationship look like between the office of the CFO and IT teams?
Very healthy. There has to be a symbiosis. So when we're talking about risk management, it is actually, I said the board and then the C-suite. It is actually an activity that needs to cut across the entire C-suite, which means that when we're talking about cyber, for example, which the responsibility belongs to the CIO, the CIO cannot or should not look at it in isolation of the role that the CFO plays. There has to be a strong connection there, because the CFO is there to support the CIO to succeed. And which means that when we talk about even simple things like funding priorities and everything, there has to be ongoing dialogue between the CIO and the CFO. So the relationship has to be very, very strong.
Great, thank you. It looks like we have time for a couple more questions. This next question asks, which topic on the risk continuum do you see as being the most overlooked usually?
The topic in the middle, which is the edge systems, the systems that tie to the peripheral of your network that we don't think about on a daily basis. And they're getting more sophisticated. They're your elevator systems, they're your HVAC systems, they're they're the things that, if I can use that word, in corporate organizations, they say they're not sexy because we don't see it. We just know that it works. We don't have a clue how it works, whether it's on the network. And so we focus on information technology. But to be honest with you, it's overlooked a lot. They're getting more sophisticated, and we need to pay attention to it.
Thank you. And we have one final question just to wrap us up. What are the most common types of cyber attacks? Are social engineering attacks a concern?
Yes, the most common cyber attacks, I couldn't tell you that because I know a lot about technology. When I was at Kaiser Permanente, clinical technology was in my space in terms of risk. However, what I can tell you is that we're in a dynamic environment when it comes to technology across and security risk across the continuum. It's a very dynamic environment. It's changing on a daily basis. We now have AI introduced to a lot of the things that we do on a daily basis. So I could give you an answer today, and it may be different tomorrow. I could give you an answer that may be different from one industry to the other. So I just say, have a good proactive way of managing your risk across the continuum. And the proactiveness of it will go a long way to help you manage your risks and making sure that your organization achieve its mission, purpose, and objectives.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Anatan, again, for such an incredible keynote presentation. That is all the time we have for questions. I also wanted to thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be made available on demand following the event. Thank you again, Anatan.
Thank you.